and today I am trying something different on my live stream. This is a Monday, and I'm just going to answer questions I've gotten people sent to me about Spiritism, and I will try to give answers. And if you are ask any other questions, put those in the comment sections, and I will take those right away. And I'm thinking of doing this regularly, but not quite sure yet. This is just something I'm trying, as I know I've been getting lots of questions from many people about Spiritism. So please put those in the comments. So first I want to talk about Spiritism. So Spiritism was codified in the 1850s by Allan Kardec. And these are the three main books I have here right up on top. The Spirits book is really the first book. That is a series of 1,019 questions that he came up with, a very scientific person. And he sent those questions all throughout, well, parts of Paris and France, I think maybe some other countries in Europe. And he didn't use the answers, didn't codify the answers until the answers were the same or similar. Now, for those who want to start, that's an excellent book. Now, I also would like to recommend my book, Spiritism 101. And that is very important because that will kind of give you an introduction, and then I would go to the Spirits book. So, okay, I already have questions. So let me hide this, and I'll come up and let me put this on the show. So the question is, if our fate is predetermined, why pray for assistance? Now, that is an excellent question. Now, this is how the spirits have talked about this in the books from Chico Xavier and other Spiritist messages and communications. When you say predetermined, that means some people say that as kind of predestination, meaning that every choice you make, it's already made, and you have no free will in the matter. That's not the way it works. The way it works is when you are in the spirit world and you're ready, if you're in heaven, right? If you're not in heaven, you're lower, you're given your set of episodes. So let me answer your question. You work with your spirit mentor, and you go through this set of episodes, like the job you're going to have, who you're going to marry, maybe who you're going to divorce. I mean, who knows? Your car will get wrecked, all these things. You go bankrupt. These are predetermined, right? But within these predetermined episodes, you have free will to make choices. Will you handle your bankruptcy with honor? Will you try and blame everybody else, or will you try and steal money or hide money that you should have given to the bankruptcy court? Or if you're going to get a divorce, did you handle your divorce with honor, even if your spouse was horrible, but did you still try your best and do it with honor? So that is why you pray for assistance, is to make the correct free will choice. And the spirit world's very interesting. They will send people with a set of tasks, and they're in the book. I can't remember what it was. It was a second book by Chico Xavier, and they were talking about people coming from this low level of heaven to earth to fulfill some task to help Spiritism. And they would say that, the majority of the time, and this sounded almost like 80–90% of the time, people would not be successful because they didn't make the right choices. They would be given the opportunity. Now, let me give you an example. This one spirit was born with the ability to know all about his past lives. And he was here on earth to help people understand their past lives. That was his predetermination. Was the talent. They set him up in the right Spiritist center, all that. But he got so enthralled, all he did was explore his past lives, his own past lives, and then he could figure out, he could figure out who was with him. And he was like, I think he was sometime in the Spanish Inquisition or something. And he could figure out who was with him during that time, and he knew who they were on earth, reborn in Brazil. And he would contact them and talk to them. And he just ignored his talent to help other people. He only helped himself. And here's another example. I'm hoping this helps. They say, because Andre Luis, which is the kind of the main spirit who communicated with Chico Xavier on his whole set of books, with wonderful book, starts with No Solar. They gave an example of this. Look, you're predetermined to be in prison. You have no choice, right? Because you did something bad in your past lives and you're going to go to prison. If it's fault or something you really did, you're there. But you have free will, is how you behave to the warden. Do you help other inmates? I mean, what type of person are you in that area? So you do have free will given that. So I hope that helps. It was a good question. Okay, I'll put up this other, see if there's any other questions there. Let me put up the screen. Hold on one second. Because these are other questions I have. Oh, here, before I forget, here is the book I would recommend to go on my website, nwspiritism.com. Let me put this here. And this you can download for free. Spiritism 101, The Third Revolution. It's in PDF. I also have, of course, in Kindle, paperback, and Audible, but it's also in French for anybody. I'm amazed how many people downloaded in French. I've had some really nice people that have translated some books for me. That Problem and the Solution, and How to Live. Okay, now let's go look at the questions. So if anyone else has questions, just go out there. So, so here are some that I've had, and I just kind of put those in kind of a random order as I get them. I'm just trying not to do too many in one day because I want people to feel free that they can ask me other questions. So a lot of people say, I want to communicate with spirits. And so let me start from what a lot of people who were raised with the Old and New Testament, and they say, don't talk to spirits, right? That's what the Catholic Church says. No, you're not. You can't talk to spirits. Well, first of all, the Christians, the Christians during the beginning Christians, when they gathered, they talked to spirits all the time. That was part of their gathering. What Spiritism tells us is a lot of it. They say don't talk to spirits because the priestly class wanted to reserve that right for themselves, and the spirit world kind of went with this and had a lot of mediums who were priests and in other religions too, rabbis and so forth. But what they found is they kept that information to themselves and made it so they could make money and be profitable and have a living. Well, if you're a medium, a spiritist medium, you are not allowed to charge for that. So in the 1850s, when Allan Kardec codified the Spirits book, they said, we're going to open this up to everybody. And that's why you're seeing more and more. In fact, you see on YouTube a lot of people who are prophets. And just because they're not a priest or a bishop or something doesn't mean they're false. Now, some people could be. There's still fraud and these things out there. And if you see people that are charging for mediumship and to read your palm and all that type of stuff, then I would be extremely wary. And in fact, what Spiritism says is the level of the medium determines the level of the spirits talking to him or her. So if you are not very spiritual, and some people have mediumistic ability who aren't spiritual and who want to make some money, God bless them, but they're only going to be communicated to by lower spirits who won't know as much as others. Okay, let me hit another question. Oh, let me get rid of this widget here. Oh, what happened? Okay, there. How do I know if Spiritism is the right path for me? Well, I mean, that's really up to you. In Spiritism, we don't force anything down. There's no there's no dogma per se that you have to eat something or you have to wear something or all that. Is Spiritism, what we do is relay the information in your lap, and we try to say, okay, does this make sense to you? Because I believe a lot of people who are interested in Spiritism have this kind of intuition anyway, and they'll get inspiration from other spirits. And so let's talk about Spiritism for a second. The main, if the spirits have said, if you want to boil down Spiritism to one thing, it's really live the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And if there's anything else you do, that's the main thing. And Spiritism isn't just communicating with spirits. What Spiritism is gives you a lot of information. And in other, in the Catholic religions and Protestants and Buddhism and so forth, the afterlife is somewhat nebulous, just like your name. It's like it's fuzzy. The Hindus say, you turn into light, and you're right, because you turn into energy. But Spiritism, what it does is it really gives you information that, for people like me, when I was younger, I was like a concrete thinker, right? Almost everyone is really young, but it took me a long time to have action plans because of it. It tells you about the different levels of heaven. It tells you what you are. It tells you you're an immortal soul. And let me show you this right here. Let me hide this one and go like this. It tells you what you are. It tells you that your body is temporary. And I think anyone who's interested in spirituality comes to the spot where they want to explore more, because they know that there's got to be, they know that, unlike what our culture tells us, that you're born randomly and then you die and you turn into dust and that's it, nothing else. There's got to be something else, because either you've seen things that are unexplainable or whatever, right? And me, I've had unexplainable things that were beyond the realm of possibility. That's what caused me to really start exploring. So what Spiritism says, okay, how does this work? How does this whole thing work? How does reincarnation work? How does karma work? And it explains things. It says, okay, your body, which you'll get a new body every life, is covered like a diving suit by your perispirit. Now, when you're in the spirit world, you have your spirit and your perispirit. And your perispirit is your kind of your presentation to the world, to the spirit world. And that will, and you can modify your perispirit how you look. In fact, they say when people pass over, a lot of people when they pass over, they still look like who they looked like before when they were alive, because that's in their minds, that's their thoughts. And a lot of people don't know if they're dead. But as you understand that you're dead, then you understand that. Okay, so let's get another question here. So how does one practice Spiritism if there are no rituals, etc.? So, a great question. So what they do is you read and you study and you practice certain things. So let me go over that. Let me put this down. You practice forgiveness. You practice understanding. In fact, I go through all of this. Better in my book, Inner Peace Through Spiritism. And let me bring up a great poem by Andre Louis, because it is excellent. Hold on one second. Okay, right there. And I wrote this whole book around that because it really tells people, oh, wait. There we go. So this is, okay, let me hide this 1 second. So let me bring this screen down, because I think this is just Amazing. Okay, bring this up. And I want to go over this. And this is what I based the book. Let me make it bigger. So this was a poll. What I did is I took this and it was actually in a book. And a guy wrote, and he was working with Chico Xavier, and he got this poem, The Spirit Under Louise. He said, this is a good one to say, how you should prepare yourself, how you ascend, how you should live. And so what I did in my book, How to Live, I went through each one of these. This is what Andre Louise says, how to get inner peace. Inner peace is really how to get yourself to be a real spiritist. And he says, keep always trust in God and yourself. So you have to learn to increase your faith. A serene conscience. Now, that is, to me, that was one of the first important steps, is a serene conscience. Because that means that when you want to practice Spiritism, what you do is you practice filtering out all your information via your conscience. Meaning that even if you have an opportunity to make a little bit of extra money, but there's this little ping saying, I might kind of hurt somebody or kind of cheat somebody. And so therefore, don't do it, even though it means less monetary gain for you. And the more you practice that, the easier it is. Time spent on productive matters. A constructive speech. Now, this is another important one. Spiritism is really big on thinking positive thoughts and not participating in malicious gossip. Now, we all know that gossiping, especially in the workplace, right? Maybe everywhere, but I would say in my experience in the workplace is like, oh, so-and-so is horrible. And what you need to do is you need to practice, because what you're doing, when you say, how does one practice Spiritism? That's a great question. You really, why are you on earth? You're on earth to rewire your brain, to remove the primitive emotions and replace those with advanced emotions. That is your task. That is your mission. Therefore, to change your personality and your character, you have to rewire your brain. This is not something you go, oh, today I'm going to rewire my brain. No, I've been doing it for years and I'm still bad on certain things, right? I still think wrong and I still, kind of sometimes go in the gossip even though I shouldn't. But what you need to do is say positive things. So if there's someone you're talking about at work, you don't participate in that and you try to say something positive like, yeah, but the person can do so-and-so pretty well. Now, I know sometimes you're going to have to say negative things about people, especially if you're a manager like I was. You have to say, well, they're a little bit incompetent in this area, but we can help them, or we need to change their job. They don't fit in that job. But that is really what you take the breaking down of people, you take the being mean to people away from your speech. A prayer light to work. So I mean, you've got to you're on earth, you're always working, and you're there in service. And that's when you go to the spirit world, you're not going to be sitting there laying on the clouds with playing a harp. You have jobs to do. Now, you don't have to. No one's forcing you to have a job, but you can't ascend in the spirit world without learning and doing things. A hope in action. So keep, again, positive, industrious patience. Now, that to me was one of the most difficult because I want something now. But as spirits tell us, there is a right time and you can try to do something good, but it's not the right time for it. And that is really something that as I getting older, I'm able to do. As I study more and I try to do things, I'm getting better. But boy, that's been a tough one. A dispassionate opinion. So again, you don't bring in your emotions in like, oh, I hate this, right? Because anytime you have hate or anger, you lose your focus, and your anger, we're all like radio towers, cell towers, and we radiate our thoughts all around the universe. And when these primitive emotions go, they just go all over the place. So you want to use, if you're trying to get, let's say, a contractor to do something and they're just like pushing it off, you don't get angry at them, but you get indignant. And indignant means you are going to show up on Monday at 8 o'clock. Like one time I had a contractor and he sent his painters. And his painters came a little bit late. It's like, instead of like 8 o'clock, they came at like 9:30. And amazingly enough, they were all drunk. And I came up to them, I could smell it. And I said, no, you are all going home. And I called up the general manager, the general contractor, and he goes, oh. So, I mean, I wasn't angry with him. I just said, no, sorry, you're not working today. You're all going home. And they knew I meant it. They just turned around, lost that day of wages. So that's the way it works. But I won't dwell on each one. Let me just read them. The blessing of comprehension, understanding, that's what you need to study. Compassionate attitude, truth enlightened by love, oblivion of evils, happiness in your commitments, unconditional forgiveness of offenses. Now that's an important one. So let me talk about that one for a minute. People have done things to us that are horrible. I've had people do things to me that are horrible, and I'm sure I've done things to other people that are horrible. And we have a tendency to say, oh, I hate that person. How can I get revenge? Well, if you understand Spiritism, and this is Spiritism is really just an intellectual thing. There's not physical things you have to do. If you understand Spiritism and you're immortal, and everyone has a blueprint, a program of certain events, and all those events are stimuli to help you modify your character and your attitude, right? Your personality. So when people are doing bad things to you, you have to look at them as an actor in a play. They are there for a reason, to solicit some sort of attitude from you, some sort of thinking, some sort of analysis. It's like there's a play and there's a main character. In most plays, there's a main character goes, talks to other people, and the character grows. And some people are bad, some people are good, as the audience sees it. But that bad actor, when the play's over, they all go to the bar and they're all friends. You have to look at that. Is people who do terrible things to you, you say, okay, well, that person was there for a reason. And most of the time, this is what you have to understand. Most of the time, they were doing something not good to you because you've done something similar in a past life, because that's why we're in a planet of atonement. We have to pay for our past wrongs. So I hope this is really helping you understand. The Spiritism is all about rewiring your brain and becoming a good person, but really ripping out those primitive emotions and replacing those with more civilized emotions, trying to be calm. And not that I'm there yet, right? I lose my cool way too often, but I believe I have improved. So I hope that answers. Let me just finish this real quick. Oblivion of evils. A devotion to study, which is that you need to do, is read and understand what's going on in the spirit world and in your world. That's all up to you, though. Everything is a free will choice. A gesture of kindness, an encouraging smile, spontaneity to assist others, simplicity of habits. Right? We don't need every new toy out there. Spirit of renovation, meaning the spirit that you really want to change yourself. Be tolerant. Place yourself second to serving, and perseverance in goodness. Okay, so let me do this. Okay, move. Okay, I was recently given an opportunity to work with a religious organization, but have been having doubts since discovering Spiritism. How do I work this out? Well, that's a tough one. Now, if that organization is, you can know that it's still for the good, and you can help people, and you think that's more important, and you can study Spiritism on the side, but you feel like you are kind of somewhat, I don't want to say betraying, that's too hard of a word, but you're not putting your all into it. That's probably a sign that you should not do that. Because if you can't really believe in it and help foster them to be successful while you're saying, I don't agree with that. But again, that's something for you to work out, because so many religions have so many good points, and they do, and a lot of them do really well for a lot of people, and that could outweigh any doubts you have. So if you can reconcile both, I mean, go ahead. But if your conscience, if just by you asking that question, that kind of tells me that you are trying to, your conscience is telling you, yeah, no. And it's like, I feel I'd be relinquishing a great opportunity, but I also feel this attachment to Spiritism and has been studying it weekly. So to me, that it's a tough one, and it's all up to you. And there's no wrong answer. It's what's best for you. The fact that you're trying to help a religious organization that's trying to help people is all good. Now, I would try to think in the future, and to think, okay, how am I going to help them, and how am I going to grow in the future with this organization if I don't really believe in their tenets. Now, we all know there's been, especially in hundreds of years ago, many people entered the priesthood and all that just because they wanted food and shelter, and they didn't believe anything. And people can do that, right? It's up to your conscience to say, can you, without being a complete devotee, feel comfortable in this organization? If you don't feel comfortable, and when I say comfortable, that's important, because that's your conscience telling you, nah, I wouldn't feel comfortable. And that's what I'm saying. You need to learn to follow your conscience, even if it denies you certain paths. So, and he said, okay, and he said, that's a great point. So, but it's up to you. Okay. Let me go back. How can I communicate with spirits? Unless there's anything else. Let me bring this back up. Oh, another question. These are all good questions. Is there anything wrong with ghost hunting? No. And people are fascinated by ghosts. And they're spirits. And sometimes they're not real live spirits, but they're images of things that happen that are still in the ether. But sometimes they are. So if that's what's interested you, and that's why to really understand spirits and understand spirits in a lower level, understanding Spiritism is a great way of doing that. Okay, here's another question. This is from DB. If one lives a life solely dedicated to improving oneself instead of devoting their time and energy to others, is that considered selfish? Well, I mean, look, everyone has to parcel out time to improve yourself. And part of improving yourself, as I said before, is studying Spiritism and trying to rewire your personality and your character. But it's now, when you say solely dedicated, I mean, to be solely dedicated, you have to go up to a mountaintop and live on a cave and have no one else interact with you. That usually doesn't happen. Now, if you have others interact with you, and yes, you're focusing 70% of your time, 60% of your time on like reading, studying, and help, making yourself a better person. That's important, because that's a big step. But you're not abandoning those who need help from you at a certain moment. So you may be, and this is just my guess, I could be wrong, and you tell me, you may be too hard on yourself, thinking, oh, I'm just selfish and I'm ignoring everybody else. I could be doing other things. But are you there when your friends or family really need you? Or do you just shove them off and say, no, busy? If you say, no, busy, then I would think that's Spiritism would say, try to be a little more on the service side, and and be a little bit less selfish with your time. So that is my humble opinion, and of course you can um, change that. Okay, here's another question. Can you explain the science between poltergeist in relation to telekinesis? So, so I could get so deep. I'm trying to think how to summarize this without boring people. Let me just step back for a second. And I talk about this. Let me bring this up, because it's really, you have to understand what the spirit realm is. Okay, I have a book called The Spirit Realm. Spiritism has revealed the reality of our existence. And I talk about the spirit realm. Now, the spirit universe and where we are on Earth, which we are, and we can look at this geometrically, which most people do. We can look around this with Earth, and then we have a ring from the surface of the Earth below. That's called the dark abyss. A lot of people call that purgatory. Some people call it hell. And but there's no eternal punishment. You're down in that kind of not good area until you change your character and attitude. Then you're helped up, because that's how Spiritism fights evil with evil, right? If you're a rotten person to other people, you're there. You're there with your other friends. You see how you like it. No, so I'm trying to get. I have to kind of go around. I'm not getting your point. Yeah, okay. And then from the surface of the Earth to the lowest level of heaven is the lower zone, which is not a great place. But then after the lower zone, there's different levels of heaven surrounding the Earth. And a lot of people start in the first level of heaven. As you go through colleges and you get more experience and become a better person, a better spirit, you rise and you have more control of your willpower, and you have more attributes. The physical realm is, of course, a subset of the spirit realm. Now, this is where all this gets money. Now, you can look at it this way, right? And we can look at it like there's angels who are fuzzy, but they're not. They're just actually people like us. Even Jesus Christ used to be at our level, but he has, through, I don't know, billions of years, raised up to be a perfect spirit. You can look at it that way. Now, you can also look at it in the way that we are in this complex matrix, this database of everything. And let me explain. So what spirits tell us is that when you talk about distance, it's really presence or absence. What do I mean by that? And I don't want to get too deep. And I explained it better in this book, The Spirit Realm. They gave an example of Jesus Christ after he came from the resurrection 3 days. He says, look, Jesus didn't die and travel all the way to heaven. And then when he came back to meet these guys in the room, right, he didn't travel all the way back. No, what he did is he changed his environment. He used his thought, because thought is action. And he changed his environment to be in that room and to be real to those people. And this is where you'll start understanding the power of Jesus and high spirits, right? Is if you look at the earth, if you look at the earth as a logical representation, and that we are in this physical representation, and that we live in this objective world, meaning that we are spirits inhabiting a physical body, and that the wall is a wall, our head's hard, right? And we look at things, and we can't change them. Our thoughts can't change. But when you're in the spirit world, you can create your own environment to a certain extent because there's other spirits around you and higher spirits making sure that of what your environment is about. But you can change things. So in this huge, complex, let's call it the matrix, the universal database, there are images and things floating around. And there's a great example of these people working on an underground in London, which is a subway. And these workers were there on the walls, and then all of a sudden I look behind them, and this Roman legion marched through. And the historians they talked to said, this must have been a real vision, because they were telling me details that a legionnaire wore that they wouldn't have no clue. And that's kind of like an image, right? Whereas telekinesis, I don't know if I'm explaining this right, is your mind is moving things, which if you look at everything as logical, depending on the level of the spirit, they can do things, right? Whereas other spirits can appear as energy. It all depends on the level. And I know I'm not explaining this well, because I get down in such detail that I would bore people. But I would recommend you read The Spirit Realm and then come and ask me more questions, and I can talk to you directly, because it's a tough one. Okay, let me go to the next question, because I know I didn't answer your question very well. I apologize. Okay, here's another question. Does one have to be perfect in order to be a spiritist? Absolutely not. No. If we were perfect, we wouldn't be here, right? I wouldn't be here. In other words, sometimes we experience negative emotions and feel bad for feeling them. The Spiritism encourages us to be perfect. I don't say they encourage you to be perfect. They encourage you on the trend line. So a teacher with a student thinks, oh, they have to get 100% all the time. No, the teacher just wants the student to improve little by little. In fact, there's a concept in Spiritism called parking, where you live life after life and you never improve yourself. So no, they know we're not going to be perfect. We're on a planet of atonement where we pay for our past wrongs. We are now just beginning the phase of being a planet of regeneration. Well, we won't have all these emotionally difficult trials to go through. So no, we're far from perfect. Everyone recognizes that. We're like elementary school kids. We're drawn with a pencil, and it's hard for us to stay within the lines. It's all part of our growth. And in fact, this one person had an NDE, and he came out of it. He says, I understand that things are as important as they are unimportant. And what he meant by that is, in our life, let's say, we go through things that we think are extremely important, but they're just part of the long process. Such as you're in college and you get a D on a chemistry test. And you just agonize over it. But over the long run, 10 years from now, it's like, that was nothing. It taught me to work harder. So no, they don't encourage you to be perfect. Okay, let's get the next question. Oh, are demons, Satan real? So demons are us. Angels are us in different levels of maturity and advancement. So low spirits, I would say ignorant spirits. I don't want to say evil, because it's not, we don't really try to use that into Spiritism. But, they are people in the lower zone, are in the dark abyss, which people call the purgatory. And they are actually doing their best to stop the earth and stop each individual from progressing spiritually. Why would they do that? Well, a lot of times they just like to be mean, and they're around the earth. We are surrounded by spirits, and they love to give you stupid ideas. And let's say, let me give you an example. You hang out in a bar, and they go, you need a drink. And they want you to have a drink because they want to kind of absorb in your body and feel that alcohol, because they are alcoholics in their life. And they also want to retard and slow down the progress of the earth, because when the earth becomes the planet of regeneration, they will be sent to other planets, and they'll be on the bottom of the food chain in worse shape. Satan, there is no certain fallen angel called Satan, but there is a group of the cult, like the dragons, who are in charge of different areas of hell. Now, of purgatory, I should say, or the dark abyss. But always remember this: these great dragons, these lords of not goodness, all this hell and purgatory, whatever you want to call it, dark abyss, lower zone, it's still all controlled by Christ. They can't determine who gets reincarnated. No, Christ uses this like you'd use a prison where the inmates run it, and they let them learn a lesson. And we're in this chaos right now to teach us a lesson of how to filter out stupid ideas that spirits give us to really exercise our conscience. Everything that happens to us is for an educational reason. And all these people who are in Spiritism, they say that some people have been in this place for 10,000 years, which is amazing. But eventually all will rise and become good spirits. Okay. Joseph, I get tarot card readings from personal mediums of mine. I know what the Bible says about medium astrology. I'm honestly curious, as a spiritist, is this really a bad practice? No. Now, as I started off my talk, is we are into a new era. There was an era when Jesus was on the earth that many people talked to spirits, and that was part of the practice of the early churches. And there we are into that again, because the priestly class of different religions and doctrines, whatever, didn't communicate what they should have communicated. So therefore, there's going to be many more people with mediumship ability. That's why I really recommend everyone, if you're interested in being yourself a medium, I'd recommend you reading Allan Kardec's The Medium's book. And let me show this. This is his. If you look at this, small picture, The Medium's book, which talks all about how to tell good spirits, ignorant spirits, different levels of spirits. So now let's go back to your tarot card reader. Now remember, most people with tarot cards who are really good, and they will know things. They also have this, they use it as a tool for their mediumship. The spirits that will talk to this medium are going to be spirits attuned with the level of the medium. And so this should, so keep that in mind. Now, when I've had people say, oh, I've talked to medium and the spirit said, I'm such a great guy, and oh, I've done wonderful. And I say, oh, you better be careful, because when I've been in medium meetings, and this is what I see, is the higher spirits that talk through the mediums who really understand Spiritism and are very high spiritual level will talk to you like that teacher you hated when you were, let's say, in middle school, but then 10 years later you go, oh, she or he taught me a lot. They were tough on me. And that's what I see. In the mediums meeting, they'll go, well, you're okay this much. You need to improve, and you need to study more. You need to do this. They won't lavish praise on you. They will give you some positive feedback, but they don't bullshit you. It's tough love. And so if you're getting too much, false things, know that the spirits that are communicating to you may not be at a high level. They're going to give you, you need to study, you need to work, you need to go follow the right path. They're going to give you that type of stuff. They're not going to tell you that your keys are under the rug at your uncle's house. That's where you left them. They might sometimes, right? They might help on little things like that. But I mean, generally, I hope that answers the question. Okay, we hide that one. Okay, this is Intercontinental. Great question. The elevated spirits explain the science in the medium's book. Okay, so the topic in the physical manifestations. The topic is spirit manifestations. That's a better answer than the one I gave, because I was getting too, I got too deep too fast. So thank you, Ebony Paris, for answering that. And if you really want to look at it, read the medium's book, and it explains the physical manifestations and other type of manifestations. So thank you. You're absolutely right. Thank you for filling in for me. Okay, intercontinental. Does thought create reality? And the answer is yes, it does. Not here. It's so. Think about thought creates reality. Think about if everyone on earth, that what you thought created reality, how chaotic, and someone could hate you and destroy your house, or someone could just create mounds of gold. Of course, everybody have gold and be nothing, but all these things, right? It would be complete chaos. Now you understand why we are going through such hard troubles on the physical plane. It's to change our mindset and change our character personality. So when we are given great power, we use it correctly. This is why on earth, good things happen to bad people and bad things happen to good people. This is the reason. Now, what happens? So in the spirit world, I said before, in the physical world, we're objective, right? We really can't do that. You're really here to change our character personality. In the spirit world, yes. In fact, there was a passage in the books, by many, but Reverend T. Bowen's mother, that she and a group of spirits were like one of the lower levels of heaven. They got together and they were being taught of how to create something from universal fluid. And they said, okay, create a statue of an elephant. And they all sat around and they started thinking, and they created an elephant. Of course, it was like half live, half statue. It wasn't the right ratio. And they said, well, we all laughed, right? Because don't think we don't laugh in the spirit world. And they actually go through and they have different readouts and studies to say, okay, what portion of universal fluid did you use, what, and what harmony, what vibration? This is all things that you are going to be taught. Now, you're not going to die and say, I'm going to create my whole Disney world, my fantasy world. No, because you're not going to really understand how to do it. And higher spirits, through their superior force of will create the environment you're in, and you're going to be affected by other thoughts all around you. That's why there's the law of affinity, because when you pass over to your real life, your immortal spirit life, you'll be with people who think like you, and you'll fit in. Now, there's things you create your own house, your own mansion, but as you get higher and higher, you create more and more things. Okay. The good spirits protect us. Absolutely. Everyone is assigned a guardian angel. And that's with you. Now, they may not be physically next to you. So there's communication between spirits. And what the spirit can be, on the moon or a different galaxy. And they will, because remember I said, we think of this in geometrical shapes and in distance, but it's really one big, huge database complex, a live database. That's probably a bad description of it. And they're connected to you, and they know what's going to happen. So if they'll see your future at a certain extent, depending on the level of spirit, they'll know what you're going to be doing, what type of trials are going to happen to you in the future. And if they say, oh, something big is going to happen, I think I'll be there right next to that person. So yes, and then also, let's say you usually will have family and friends in the spirit world that also will look after you and track your progress, and they'll know when they should come and help you through things. And that's why when you have dreams are very important. I could talk hours about dreams, and you're being encouraged and you feel good after your dream, but you're given a certain path. Try to listen to that, because as you sleep, you're into the spirit world and you're talking to your friends. So you've got friends and family who are discarnates, spirits, also helping you. So the answer is absolutely yes. And this was why at the beginning of every of the month, like the first, second, or third. Why? Well, I don't understand this. Why I'm not quite understanding that question. Oh, there, I was redone here. Let me finish this one first. Are you familiar with Emanuel Swedenborg? His teachings don't talk about reincarnation. Yes. In fact, I've read and I've got information on my blog about Emanuel Swedenborg. And they don't. And it's interesting because I found him by reading books by Chico Xavier, and they were talking about him in one of the lectures in the spirit world. And they go, yeah, we had this guy and we brought him to certain levels around the earth, but he thought he was another planet, and he was pretty good, but he had some misconceptions, which is nothing against him. And that's what I always say, like, about prophets, because people say, oh, he wasn't perfectly right on this or whatever. It's really hard to interpret what the spirit world is telling you, because you're coming from a three-dimensional world to a four-dimensional world, and it gets fuzzy. That's why dreams are fuzzy and full of symbolism that makes no sense. But they would if you were a spirit. So there was in one of Allan Kardec's magazines, he had a mediumship with Swedenborg, and Swedenborg said, oh, you're great. I found out some of these misconceptions I had. I'm learning more, but Swedenborg was great. I mean, I love Swedenborg, and some of the things he gets on even better than any of the other mediums that I've seen. And he talks about it's not the deed, it's the thought behind it. He really dwells into your own mindset. So he was very close. In fact, I always say that he was kind of like the advanced, like the same way like Socrates was somewhat of the advanced person for Jesus Christ, because Socrates really went through many of the same concepts as Jesus Christ. Allan Kardec was many of the same, there's the spirit of this. What Swedenborg said was completely revolutionary. And so, and the other thing is, remember, the spirits, and I've seen this with prophets that I see on YouTube, and as they talk about heaven, and I see things that ring true, and I see things that what I believe, not that I'm perfect, could be misconceptions. In fact, even Edgar Casey was a devout Catholic and did not, well, I don't know if he's Catholic, but Christian. He did not believe in reincarnation until it took him a long time to, yeah, there has to be reincarnation. Talk about people's past lives. But the spirits, they don't say, okay, Emmanuel Swedenborg or Edgar Casey, you're wrong about this and you're wrong about that, that, and that. That's not the way they do it. They give you gentle hints. They give you information. And that's what Spiritism is all about. And they let you come to your own conclusion. If they said, no, you're wrong, it's like, well, I don't know. How am I wrong? When you come to your own conclusion, this is how they teach everything. You put it into your heart and it makes a firmer foundation. So I love Swedenborg. Great, great person. Okay, where am I? Okay, okay, here it is. Why at the beginning of the month, like the first, people get possessed by demon or spirits right at the beginning of a new month? Why? I don't know. I haven't noticed that. And I know people get possessed, or maybe a better way of saying obsessed. And that's a reason for a lot of mental illnesses. Now, first, always go to your psychiatrist or your doctor. But there are Spiritus hospitals in Brazil, and they combine medicine and therapy with Spiritus mediums meetings. And what they do is, a lot of times people are mentally ill or obsessed, I should say, because a spirit or a group of spirits is trying to extract revenge on something this person did in past life or lives. And they obsess them, they try to make that person, ill. And so they try, an exorcism. If you read the spirits book and the medium book, it's like, that's just a joke to spirits. What they try to do is they say, look, they try to talk to the spirits that are trying to obsess this person, and they're saying, why are you doing this? Because, let the spirit world teach this person a lesson. You are retarding your own progress by taking your time and trying to get your own revenge instead of improving yourself. Everyone's going to learn their lesson, and then they try to help these spirits who are obsessing them. They don't say, "Oh, you got to stop it." No, they try to reason with them. And I've been in mediums meetings when they do this. Okay, Nebius asks, is it okay to wear a crucifix? What does a crucifix symbolize? The Spiritus. That's perfectly fine to wear whatever you want to. There's nothing that. And the crucifix symbolizes Christ on the cross, and it was all part of showing people. And really, the reason was, and what it is today is saying that he came to earth to help us and for us to understand how to improve ourselves. And it's really the end of the whole wonderful teachings of Christ, that people can say, look, he was never interested in being this savior, right, of what the Israelis or the Jewish faith thought, that they were going to have this I just forgot the name, the savior and who had gone up through there and smite the Romans, right? No, he showed them how you're going to, what you're going to be, and how to be a better person. That was the real reason. Okay. Okay, I am, says, please take your time, Brian. We appreciate your help understanding these things and for taking the time out of your day to explain. Okay, I think that we're really out of time. I don't want to take more than an hour on this, but I want to, I guess I'll do this more. I didn't know I'd have, these are great questions. I didn't really get to any of my other questions. So I think this is wonderful what we did. And I'm hoping I help people. I would like, just again, is to have people get on my website, nwspiritism.com, and look at the site, because I think there's a lot of information. I think the more you read, again, this book is free. It's on PDF, and I hope that can help everybody. And it's just like less than 100 pages, so it's short and to the point. The other book I'd recommend really is the Spirits book, which I think is extremely. I would actually. It depends. Everyone learns differently, and so it all depends on what you want to learn, right? I'm not here to tell you, but some people, like I started the Spirits book, and to me it was just revelatory. So I mean, I love that book. But other people learn everything. Spiritism 101 would help you get in there. And then I also think I've also written books, like I talked about, the spirit realm, but also dive deeper into heaven, what you are as a spirit, how we're guided. I have a series of free books. Book 1, Heaven and Below, is a lot of information from different Spiritist writers, but a lot of it's from the Reverend G. Vaon, who was just a wonderful person at the start of the 20th century. And then the second book is Spirits in the Spirit Universe, what you are as a spirit, how you learn as a spirit, all of that. And then the last is how we are guided by spirits. Well, how we're guided, how we're shown to be in the future, and what is the future of yourself and of Earth. So I want to thank everyone here for being with me today. I'll try and do this more on a regular basis. And God bless all of you. Oh, wait, got a question here. I would say, I don't know if his work was revised, because his work was published and all that, but his thoughts were revised by Allan Kardec, is when he got to the spirit world and he found out the reality between what he said and what he wrote, then he knew some things that he was a little bit off. That's all. So there's some things he didn't understand correctly, which is, I probably wouldn't understand any half of what he understood, and went through down in the depth of detail. I mean, the guy was a genius, so, and a great person. So, you know that his concepts really started Methodism, the Methodist Church. So that was, what a wonderful person. So I hope that answers that question. Okay, I will leave you here. It's been an hour, and I will come back later. And I'll keep this titled Questions and Answers About Spiritism. So when you see this pop up on my Facebook site, Spiritism and the spirit world around you are my YouTube site, and you know what it is. And come and ask me anything you need. God bless.